To perform the hip flexor stretch, have your athlete get down in the lunge position. Once they're in that position, make sure that their kneecap is in line with their hip. The best way to isolate the hip flexor is to think about driving your hips and your knee down into the ground and slightly pushing your hips forward. If performed properly, your athlete should feel a slight stretch in the front of their hip where the hip flexor inserts. To feel a deeper stretch, have your athlete flex the glute of the leg that's being stretched. In this example, the left hip flexor is being stretched, so I cue the athlete to have her left glute flexed. Doing this activates the hip extensor, the gluteus maximus, and takes some stress off of the hip flexor. By doing this, the athlete should feel a stronger stretch throughout their hip flexor. It's also important to have your athlete hold on to something, maybe a bar or something nearby, so that they don't lose balance. If you're performing this at home, you can simply use a towel to cushion your knee. I don't recommend doing this on a flat, solid ground, as that can really hurt your kneecap and cause pain. The athlete should also maintain a very vertical spine. Doing this allows the athlete to isolate the illiopsoas musculature. You can have your athlete perform this stretch for as many seconds as they'd like. I like to do it for 30 seconds, and I like to repeat that 5 times. So I'm going to use this model as an example to show you why it's important to have a vertical torso throughout the hip flexor stretch. So this red band is going to portray your hip flexor muscle. If you look closely, it actually attaches, this is exactly where it attaches, kind of across your vertebrae here. It actually attaches pretty high up on the lumbar spine. For some perspective, your belly button is actually right here. Your hip flexors are attached slightly above your belly button, just about maybe 2 vertebrae above it. So if you're not as vertical as possible during the hip flexor stretch and you have some torso flexion, you're leaning forward a little bit, this is what happens. You actually don't stretch part of the origin or the part of the upper part of the hip flexor muscle. So here's your hip flexor muscle, and I'm giving it some tension right here. So that's the bottom part of the stretch is being stretched. But if you lean forward like so, forward bend, this upper part of the muscle is not getting stretched. So that's why it's important to always have a vertical torso as possible, try to be as neutral as possible. A slight tilt backwards is not that big of a deal. For example, if you want to extend far back just to feel the stretch a little bit more, that's totally okay. But I want to clear up that misconception because most people think that a tight hip flexor is only in the front of their hips, and I want to just show you that the hip flexor actually extends and originates farther up than most people think. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.